All right, so we're here to talk about one of the most exciting emerging use cases for Bitcoin, which is, do you want to give it to your AI agents? Potentially give them sovereign spending authority. So we're going to talk about 3 rounds with some open exchange at the end. Got a great panel here. We'll all introduce ourselves and then just kind of dive in. So my name is Eric Hadley. I run a website called Hyperdope. It does lightning-gated video. I also do some things with some agent services. I run a site called L402.directory that lists out different health-checked services that agents can actually buy today. So that's me. Christopher, do you want to introduce yourself, say what you got going on?
Hey guys, Chris. I run OpenAgents. We are an open source AI lab building on the Bitcoin stack, proudly based in the Bitcoin capital of the world, which we all know is Austin, Texas. That's right. Thank you very much. And one unique thing about OpenAgents is we know that everyone in this room has compute that you're not using, that we'd like to pay you Bitcoin for, because we figured out a way both to collect it from you and to have agents use it for fine-tuning, inference, and stuff. So our goal at this conference is to run the largest decentralized model training run in the world. As soon as we cross the 200 node threshold, we will steal the world record from shitcoin company BitTensor. So help us out with that. OpenAgents.com. Click the button, paste it to your agent. It'll spin up a pylon. And hopefully, if you've got a Mac or a computer with you, we can get you some Bitcoin earned by the end of this talk. So thanks. Yeah.
Cool. Eric.
Hey, my name's Eric. I'm a design engineer. I work on Cashu, which is a bearer asset mechanism on Bitcoin, where if you hold the string of text or the data, you have Bitcoin. Lately, we've been seeing kind of a rise of interest in Cashu from some unexpected places, from Bitcoin companies that want to use it to administer payroll, to non-Bitcoin companies that want to use it internally to transfer money, and increasingly people that want to use it for agentic payments. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Cool. Yeah, Roland.
Hey everyone, I'm Roland from Alby. We build products, tools, and services to make it easier for individuals and businesses to use Bitcoin, which we think is the global currency, both for the web and for everyday usage. So recently we've been building a lot of AI tools. We have 3 different AI skills. One for payments, to give your agent the ability to connect to a wallet and make and receive payments. One for building applications that have Bitcoin in them. So just with a single human language prompt, you can build a fully enabled Bitcoin application. And finally, we have a skill that enables your agent to run a fully self-custodial, manage a self-custodial node. And apart from that, we've also been looking a lot at agentic payments. So our payments skill for agents has the ability to make agentic payments for the 3 main protocols, which is L402, X402, and MPP.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks, Roland. All right, so we're going to start with kind of round 1. We're going to pop up. Let's just ask kind of a general question. We'll hear from everybody. Christopher, we'll start with you. Do agents even want money? Do they find it useful? And then among the options, like, is Bitcoin the right option?
I'll start with like a pedantic philosophical point, which is that like agents don't want anything. Like this is a piece of software. There's certainly like a movement among certain big labs, Anthropic, to anthropomorphize the AIs and make you build like an emotional connection with it. What is the agent? What does the AI want? Oh, the AI doesn't want to be sunset, and let's like have model therapy, like some like psychotic things, in my humble opinion. So the agents don't want anything. At the same time, you know, if you look at the models and the data that they've been trained on, you know, the Bitcoin Policy Institute had a great paper where they ran some studies about, like, if you put certain prompts in front of certain models, turns out that they prefer or it expresses a preference for Bitcoin relative to other things. And largely that's a function of the data that it's trained on. So we've got like 15 years of people trolling and saying stuff on Reddit, and like we've got more content because we're just older. So it's weighted more heavily. But it's all a function of what data gets into the models. You can envision models that are trained on not that. There was a project a couple years ago called Spirit of Satoshi that trained specifically on just Bitcoin stuff, and they did fine-tuning, so they kind of started with the base model, then tried to make it more of a Bitcoiner. But if it's all a function of the data that's trained on, this is kind of our argument for why we want to start training our own models from scratch, is what if we don't feed it the like midwit Reddit tier like shitcoin analysis in the first place? What if we teach it like Austrian economics from day one? But I'll stop there. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Eric, I guess your thoughts on the topic, and maybe you can say a little bit about like what is the UX like today, maybe without Bitcoin?
Yeah, so do agents want Bitcoin? I think starting there is agents don't want anything. Humans want to use an agent to pay for something, right? So that's kind of, the agent just wants to complete that instruction and execute the payments. And right now, what does that look like? So if you want to make a payment with an agent right now, the current user experience is tied to human identity in the human world. You either have to feed it a credit card or link it to an API, which you've already kind of authenticated your human identity to, and then it's topping up. And that's kind of the current experience. And then you can have the agent perform the call or the function or whatever the case may be. And what I think is more novel or more interesting or more unexplored is the permissionless aspect of having an agent perform a payment without an identity, because these things are not tied to the human world. Or a permissionless agent that you spun up, 5 minutes ago doesn't have a human identity, right? It's just this piece of software. So how can this kind of, in the current landscape that exists now, go on and execute these payments without a human identity, without KYCing, without having to need permission? And that's where Bitcoin, I think, solves that problem. And there are many different ways to pay with Bitcoin, as we know. There's on-chain, there's Lightning, and there's Cashu, which is what I work on. And I'm kind of especially kind of interested in the Cashu use case because it reduces a lot of that UX friction. If you want your agent to pay with Lightning, for example, and if it's self-custodial Lightning, you need to have inbound liquidity, outbound liquidity. You need to have an open channel. You need to trust the agent's logic to not spend your entire Lightning wallet balance. If you have $200 in there, you're going to tell the agent, okay, perform this, for $20 or whatever the case may be. You're going to trust the LLM not to hallucinate and spend your entire balance. Cashu kind of flips that on its head, because with Cashu, it's a custodial system with great privacy. You don't have to deal with the onboarding friction of custodial Lightning, and the spend is topped off by how much eCash you give it as a bearer asset. It has $20 worth of eCash. It can only perform $20 worth of payments.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Roland, I guess your thoughts on that same question, and then why would Bitcoin make more sense than some of the competitor rails like X402?
Welcome to Predict. The world is a market. Everything is a market. Get a 100% cashback, up to $100 on your first Predict bet if it loses. Predict, where everything is a market.
Yeah, I'd actually like to build a lot on what Eric said. So I'd like to ask a question. How many people have run like an OpenClaw or any sort of agent before? Cool.
A lot of hands.
So the first thing I did when I set up an agent was I wanted it to be my personal assistant. And I asked it, okay, set up your own email address. And I thought this was a very simple question, right? But then it thought about it for a while, and it came back to me and said, okay, you need to go through these steps to give me an email address. And me, it's my personal assistant. It should do the work. It shouldn't be giving me the work, right? So this is one of the things that Bitcoin as the permissionless money solves. So instead, we can use something like LN email, or there's another one called agent mail, where basically making a micropayment, you can give your agent the ability to send and receive emails. And it's not just limited to emails, but any service that requires KYC or captures, these are completely agent unfriendly, right? So I think this emerging agent economy that we've seen this year has shown actually how closed down the world actually is, the internet actually is. It's locked down that users have to provide a phone number, they have to KYC to access these different services. So why I think Bitcoin is different than the other stablecoins or other options for agentic payments is that Bitcoin is truly permissionless. No one can stop it. Stablecoins in the near term may be more popular, but we see every day that stablecoins are being frozen. Just a few days ago, over $200 million worth of stablecoins were frozen. So if your agent's money gets frozen, then it cannot actually complete the task that it needs for the human. Therefore, it becomes basically useless. This doesn't happen in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it makes total sense. All right, thanks. So the second round, let's get a little more practical. So how do you actually give an agent Bitcoin? How do you set them up with Lightning? Do you like type in your seed words? Eric, what's the first steps that people could take?
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to shamelessly show Cashu and eCash, because in order to receive eCash, you have to exist, because that's the only requirement. It's literally a piece of data or a string of text that you can push through any rail. It's rail agnostic. You can do it through Bluetooth, through email. It doesn't matter. You're just moving a piece of data from here to here.
String of text.
It's a string of text. That's all it is, right? So when you think about, now just extrapolate that further to how agents might interact. Agents no longer have to spin up a Lightning node. They don't have to know anything about Bitcoin, but all they have to do is communicate from A to B and just push a string of text to each other. And that works at scale. And also it works for sub-cent payments, which is what a lot of API calls and kind of, a lot of payments that you might be doing are fractions of a cent. Cashu has no problem executing that with sats. You could do this with Lightning, but then there's routing fees and that it depends on all these factors. So I would say the receiving aspect of that Cashu unlocks is very perfect for agents.
Yeah, makes total sense. So that's the Cashu piece. Obviously, there's a little bit more of a trust layer there. But let's say if we're going to go to like Lightning, Roland, maybe you can jump in with what's the Nostr Wallet Connect, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so Nostr Wallet Connect is an open protocol. You don't have to understand Nostr at all. It's kind of just a technical term. But what it means is it gives seamless access for an application or an agent to access a Lightning wallet. And that Lightning wallet can be custodial, it could be a Cashu wallet, or it could be a self-custodial wallet. So at Alby, we have two options. We have one where you can give an agent permissioned access, budgeted access, actually, to the human self-custodial wallet. So say you have 1 million sats on your self-custodial wallet, but you can give your agent 10,000 sats budget per month or per day so that you stay in control. And the other option is actually you can get your agent to spin up its own self-custodial Lightning node. And yeah, you have to give trust in your agent that it's not going to spend it all. But on the other hand, this agent has the keys to its own money. It does not have to trust anyone. It's in full control.
Awesome. And Christopher, how do you do your setup? What do you think about? Do you do budget controls, or how do you look at it?
First, it's definitely a beautiful part about Bitcoin. Because it is permissionless, it's very easy for companies building on the Bitcoin stack. Alby, Cashu, the Money Dev Kit guys, they can all put out these like little toolkits that are MCP tools or skills, like the kinds of things that you can just literally feed to an agent. There's generally no account to sign up for, or if it is, like, get an API key very easily. And then all of the many different trade-offs that you would want between privacy, between security, between custodianship, like that's pretty much covered. Like we have that covered, like a bunch of those different kind of trade-offs. And all of that can and should be, I think, largely seamless to the user, at least the kind of like more mainstream user base that I'm trying to target. So we're trying to solve this kind of at the product level, which is you have a piece of software that you install from OpenAgents called Autopilot. It sits on your desktop. It has a built-in Bitcoin wallet that we're kind of shipping using the Spark wallet to start. But that should be able and can be able to, if you want to interact with your friends or your neighbors or your business partners or someone you're buying from's agent, and their agent really prefers Cashu, that should just be a negotiation between agents. You shouldn't have to care about that. We can have all of, like, we don't need to choose between these different providers, basically. Like, it can be an all of the above kind of strategy.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go into the third round of this. So this is about the agent economy, the emerging agent economy. What do agents actually want to spend sats on? What are they looking for out there? Roland, why don't you start us off?
So I think agents still act on behalf of a human, right? So a human is trying to build something or trying to achieve some goal. So normally the agent can pay for that with Bitcoin instead of having the user have to manually spend time, right? So it's basically an automation to save time. So that's one thing. There's a lot of different indexes like lightning.directory and also 402 index, which has a whole bunch of these APIs that agents can use, and rather than signing up, paying for subscriptions, using credit cards, they can pay per use for these different services. So one I really like is PPQ, which is basically you can pay for AI inference. So what I gave my agent was that it pays actually for its own VPS. So it lives in the cloud on its own machine. It pays for its own hosting once per month. And this is actually automatic subscription payments powered by Nostra Wallet Connect. And the other thing is it pays for its own AI inference usage. So every single request, it can pay to PPQ to be able to actually operate and sustain itself. And it can also do requests to PPQ, pay per request to generate images or to request data from the Twitter API and other things. And I think the Twitter API is actually quite a good example, because normally you would need a subscription to be able to crawl this data if you want to get insights of what's happening in different topic areas when you're building or you're doing marketing. But instead, your agent can just pay just for the data it needs. It doesn't have to pay for a subscription. I think this is really cool.
It makes total sense. Eric, what's your thought on the economy? Any good stories?
Yeah, I would say the two things that I'm seeing the most of, if I'm being objective, are 402 and using buying LLM compute. And in the 402 space, I will say that the X402 protocol that the Coinbase and the Base guys are pushing, I don't ever want to badmouth any project. I think it's like genuinely impressive, and from everything that I've seen, the developer experience of that is quite good. But at the end of the day, like Roland said, it's dependent on stablecoins, and stablecoins can be frozen. They're not uncensorable. So for me, I'm interested in agents paying for things that are in a little bit of a more adversarial, permissionless, identityless environment, and that is kind of a lesser explored design space, and that's something that I'm kind of more interested in, is 402, but permissionless and uncensorable. The other thing, the LLM compute, I think PPQ is a great example. Another service that I'm seeing that I also think is really cool is Routester, which allows you to purchase LLM credits or compute, very similar to OpenRouter, if anyone knows that. But the authentication is a Cashu string or a Cashu token. So instead of an API key that you have to authorize with OpenRouter, you just generate Cashu, and then you use that string, that piece of data, as the key to buy the compute. So if you generate $50 worth of Cashu or Bitcoin, that is now your API, it's your access, and it is your credit. So you now have $50 worth of compute that you can access all these LLMs, no identity, no permission, and that to me is very cool, is very novel, and that gets me pretty excited.
Amazing. Yeah, Christopher, your thoughts on the economy, and we've talked mostly about agents spending on things. Can agents earn?
For sure, and this ties also into my answer to this same question, which is like, what's the most exciting thing that an agent can purchase? And I think it has to be compute. Compute is the limiting factor to why we don't have 1 billion or 10 billion Bitcoin agents tomorrow. There's no compute. If they had the compute, then you can run everything else easily on top of that. If we're needing to compete against the hyperscalers and all the VC investment and all of the soon-to-be public capital money going towards helping OpenAI buy GPUs from NVIDIA, and prices keep going up, then that may limit our ability. But if you take a look at the compute mix that OpenAI has, they said that at the end of 2025, they have about 2 gigawatts of compute in their network at the end of 2025. Well, if you total up all of the spare, what we call stranded compute, just on people's desktops, times everyone in the world, that's 20 gigawatts. Can we use that compute for edge inference, to train models, to do embeddings, the kinds of things that are needed in agentic workflow? Well, we've proven that yes, that you can. How are you going to do that? You're going to run a piece of software. It's going to run a Nostr NIP90 service provider. That is, you're going to say, this is our software called Pylon. You install it, you turn it on, you click the button. It's going to say, okay, you've got a subset of your GPU that you're willing to sell to the highest bidder at a certain price. Now, the bidder right now, the only buyer is OpenAgents. We've paid for 1.5 million sats worth of compute over the last 2 weeks. We want this compute to train our models. But you can envision months down the road, if there are agents that need compute, they're going to be bidding against us. So we want your compute to be bid for by a lot of AI agents.
All right, sounds good. So we're actually coming short to the close of time here. So why don't we think about what's a takeaway for the audience if they wanted to jump into this world today, later this week? What's the first thing they should do, Roland?
Definitely, if you're not running an agent yet, I definitely recommend you to run it. I think there's very simple options. Kelly, the Cloy guy, right? He launched a service called Cloy.ai, and just with a credit card you can set up an agent. So super easy. If you already have an agent, then try and get it to do something without your help. And if it gets stuck, then see if there's a Bitcoin service that it can pay instead to get unblocked without you having to do the work for your agent.
Cool. Eric?
Yeah, I would say I want you guys to experience what it's like to receive Bitcoin without a wallet. So come find me. I'm going to go backstage. If anyone here has BitChat, I'm going to start dropping Cashu strings of text on BitChat so you can receive them in Bluetooth. I want you to experience what it feels like to be able to receive Bitcoin through Bluetooth, through Signal, through WhatsApp, without a wallet, and then just think further about that for agents, because that to me is the big unlock. That's how it should feel.
Cool. Christopher?
The first thing you should do is sell your spare compute to OpenAgents. Let us pay you Bitcoin for it. OpenAgents.com. Whether you have a computer with you today or when you get back home, OpenAgents.com. It's literally a button you click and paste into your agent. If you don't have an agent, I'd recommend the Hermes agent. OpenClaw is okay. We're going to interoperate with a bunch of those, and it will set everything up for you. We've got a few people from our team. OpenAgents guys, raise your hands if you want help troubleshooting. Car in the back. You have compute. We want to buy it from you and then do cool stuff with it. Okay? Take our Bitcoin. We want your compute. The end.
All right, I think that's probably where we should stop. We're just about out of time. Thanks so much, everybody. This was awesome.
Every year, this community comes together to celebrate, to debate, to build what comes next. And every year, the stage gets bigger. Sound money, center stage. So, where do you go to celebrate the next chapter in Bitcoin history? You come home. Nashville, July 2027.